Have you ever had a nightmare in which you couldn't speak? You try and you try, but no matter what, you can't say a word. For you, this may simply be a nightmare, but for many, it is an everyday reality. A reality which comes with its own difficulties and frustrations. A reality where this is the closest thing to a voice anyone will know you have. Today, we will be discussing mutism, what it is, why it may occur, how it affects both mutes and those around them, and what can be done by all to perhaps make communicating easier.
Mutism is a condition by which a person is rendered unable to speak verbally. While there are many reasons for a person to be born mute or to become mute later in life, they can be classified into several categories as described on the website below. Some of these categories include physically induced mutism, by which someone has a physical condition which inhibits their ability to speak. Mutism due to being deaf. Obviously, someone who is deaf cannot hear what words sound like and therefore may be unable to grasp verbal language. And finally, selective mutism. This is a form of mutism by which a person can speak verbally, but may only do so under some circumstances and not others, or they may not communicate under any circumstances. Regardless of the cause for their mutism, people who are mute all contend with the same primary issue when trying to navigate the world. They cannot communicate verbally. This may drive others to avoid mutes due to the extra effort which could be involved when trying to communicate with them, or others may become hostile towards mutes out of frustration. This sort of behavior is apparent in the accounts from mutes in regards to their communications with others. But the barriers faced by mutes may not entirely be the fault of others or even their own disability. Mutes may stand in their own way of communicating by not even bothering to try and communicate in the first place. Mutes may assume differences between themselves and others and therefore create a self-fulfilling prophecy by which they create or widen the gap they assume exists between themselves and others.
Being able to spot someone who is a mute is incredibly hard, if not impossible. They appear just like everyone for the most part, injured or healthy. This can lead to the only way to determine that someone is physically mute is by analyzing their brain for damage or any kind of cancer growing near the vocal cords. The symptom of being physically mute is that you cannot communicate verbally. However, this can be different for the people that are selectively mute. They may be mute due to their mental state, which could include some form of trauma. There are multiple ways that someone can become mute. You can easily diagnose someone with symptoms such as the flu or bronchitis, but being mute is almost entirely due to other problems. The closest that you can get to diagnosing someone in the same ways you would diagnose someone with bronchitis would probably be aphasia. This is because aphasia focuses on communication. According to the Medical Dictionary by Farlex, aphasia is a condition that is characterized by the loss of the ability to communicate. This includes verbal communication as well as written communication, though some people that suffer from aphasia may still have some ability to communicate. Aphasia is caused by damage to the brain, primarily the cerebrum. Encephalitis is another condition that may hinder someone's ability to communicate by written or verbal means. Also found on the Medical Dictionary by Farlex, encephalitis is an inflammation of the brain that is caused by the body's immune system when trying to fight off an infection or an invasion. This reaction of the body's immune system leads to the brain tissue to become swollen and, if severe enough, may hinder someone's ability to communicate or even lead to death. A way that someone could become mute outside of brain conditions is laryngeal and hypopharyngeal cancers. According to the American Cancer Society, laryngeal cancers are cancers that form on the vocal cords and can cause a change in the voice, whether it be hoarseness or even in serious cases the inability to speak. Hypopharyngeal cancers, while in a different location, usually located beside but behind the vocal cords, may still cause a mass to form in the neck and, if serious enough, can also result in the inability to speak. Selective mutism is very different compared to physical mutism. However, according to the Selective Mutism Foundation, selective mutism can be classified as a social anxiety disorder. This disorder is usually found in children, though it can be misdiagnosed as autism. While the people that suffer from selective mutism still have the ability to talk, they usually refrain from doing so, and typically they may speak to those they feel comfortable with. Another aspect of selective mutism is that they are generally less comfortable to communicate with others rather than just not talking with their voice. They will usually also avoid eye contact and maybe even contact in general, which can lead to them spacing themselves away from others. Adults that struggle with selective mutism have stated that they have symptoms of social anxiety as well as low self-esteem, and most of these adults may be selectively mute because they were often misdiagnosed and didn't receive the proper attention. Adults who have also encountered traumatic experiences may have severe anxiety. These experiences may lead someone to have an intense fear of losing control or getting hurt. This will in turn cause them to be scared of communicating with other people to seek help. Post-traumatic stress disorder also gives symptoms of severe anxiety, as they may even psychologically relive the traumatic event that they experienced.
Common communication between mutes and outsiders is hindered to some degree or another, but difficulty varies depending on the resources available for alternative communication and whether the person suffering from mutism is able to communicate effectively using alternative methods. Now, some mutes may receive negative attention from outsiders who assume that they're stupid or seeking attention, while others may try to sympathize with mutes, saying things like, "It's okay," or "I understand how you feel," which can come off equally as insulting. Other mutes are put into another category as previously established, where they're just deemed too much effort to talk to by friends and peers, which can make them feel even more alone and socially isolated. Now, the way that a mute person may perceive an outsider's curiosity depends mainly on the individual, as well as the way the outsider approaches the person's disability. Most mutes tend to develop higher tolerance of cultural differences through experience and mindfulness, whether they mean to or not. And although there is a negative connotation with the assuming differences adaptation, it is possible that mutes that do assume differences are more so willing to enlighten others around them who seem less aware and or ignorant.
3 simple ways of communicating with someone who is mute would be learning sign language, a text-to-speech app, or using paper and pencil. Everyone can try and learn sign language to communicate with each other. Learning sign language can be very important when dealing with someone who is mute or unable to speak. Another way to overcome their challenges is by using paper and pencil. Even though it would take a while to have a conversation with that person, it is still an easy and effective way of talking with someone who is mute. The third way of overcoming their challenges is by downloading a text-to-speech app that allows someone to text what they want to say, and their phone or their computer will speak it out for them. Some apps have photos that represent a word or phrase, so when the user presses the photo, the phone will speak it out for them. Even texting and emailing can be an easy way to communicate with someone who suffers from being mute. Everyone can go out of their way to try and better understand one another, from various methods of communication like sign language, writing, text-to-speech app, or simply immersing themselves in one another's lives and grow from each other.
Hello. I'm Nathan.
I'm Isaac. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. I look forward to working with you.
Same.